Good morning, folks. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Didn't get a chance to do any more painting other than yesterday morning. Got a lot of stuff done, just wasn't painting. It wasn't hobby stuff. Hobby. So today, we've got the Byzantine spearmen, which we need a base black. These are going to be the first of the Byzantines we're going to be painting. And while that's drying, we'll finish up the Polish horse. And this is how they ended up being with the basic material. Let me get a close shot of that so I can show you guys the difference between this new material and why I think it's better for scale. See if I can find it here. It has almost like little rocks. Obviously, we're not talking about the big ones, but it has material and rocks that's a finer grit. And I think it just looks better. And it's a good thing because this is what I have to use now. They don't make the other stuff anymore. So, anyhow, just wanted to show a little bit of that. Let's base these guys in black. Then we'll go back and do do this Polish horses here. Put me out of my misery. My intestinal bowel disease has been killing me big time tonight. Oh man. That's rough. I woke up with a little bit of a headache, but that's just something you have right now, or is that a chronic problem? Hopefully it's not a chronic problem, man. That's rough to be. I don't care what chronic problem you have. I mean, obviously there's a difference between different ones, but it's bad just to have the same thing over and over again. I had a friend of mine whose wife had Crohn's disease, and it kept him to the point where he couldn't do much stuff. He's always having to mind what she's doing, so I can see that is an issue if you're constantly having the same one. Am I out of... I need a little piece of cardboard. All right. Let's see. It's not like I don't have a ton of this stuff. They still have the old one? No, I threw it away. We're going to need 2 pieces. Got everybody at the office saving this stuff for me now. So these cardboard sheets like the backs of packs of paper come on. It's a chronic problem. I have diverticulitis and severe irritable bowel disease, which is a step below Crohn's disease. Oh man, that sucks, man. I had a grandmother that had my stepmom's mom, but She's really my mom because my real mom passed away when I was very young. I like to say that I never met my real mom. Don't remember anything about her, so. But anyways, my stepmom's mom, who lived with us, she ended up having a colostomy, and she had a rough time dealing with that. And she was older. She was, I think she had it in her 70s, and she lived into her 80s. But that was an interesting challenge. Okay, I think we're going to. No, these suck. Man, some of these brushes have just been gang raped. This one will do, I think. Well, everybody's wanting to jump up on the screen. You don't go up here. I hope I don't knock that down. That's a pain in the ass. That's a lot of brushes to pick up. I have to set time. I have to set some time aside to pick up that many brushes. John Hanna, welcome. There's nothing worse than being unwell and feeling sick. It's really a crapshoot each day on how I will feel. I'll be able to do anything. It's really disrupting, to say the least. You said it. It's rough, but tonight has been one of those rough nights. Man. Okay. Let's put a little bit of this. Which didn't take a whole lot. This stuff goes a long way. Yeah, that's why you have trouble sleeping then, I would imagine. I was trying to base 21 American War of Independence militia bases. The 3 artillery bases will stop being on 3 downs. I just stopped because I'm damn near doubled over. Yeah, well, I'm lucky I don't have anything like that. I woke up with a little bit of headache, but we won't talk about that. Hopefully it'll go away. Is this the most painful thing you've had? I fortunately have not had anything like that. Headaches are what get me, but nothing like that, and not that frequently. And I had back pain one time. Well, I've had back pain before, but I had back pain really bad one time, and that was no fun. But it went away in a couple days. So I take it you probably work from home, I would imagine. Hopefully you do, because that would be bad to have in the workplace. I was hoping with this whole COVID thing that employers would realize that, hey, we could save a lot of money and people would be a lot happier if they could just work from home. But I think that was just kind of a fantasy. I mean, not for me. I mean, I'd have to do something else for a living. I gotta go into work, unfortunately. But I know if I had the opportunity to work from home, I would make sure that I would be twice as productive from home, so I could never have that. So I wouldn't have that taken away from me. It's like, well, let's leave Tony at home because he gets so much more done when he's not in the office. Perfect. But then the other thing is you've got to have a bunch of homes that have that are wired for high-speed internet and stuff like that. Because I can already see, well, I can't get a connection, or this didn't work, or something like that. So you got to make sure you're a rock star when you're working from home, so you don't have that taken away from you. I can already tell I'm having issues seeing what the hell this guy's has for armor on his chest. I don't know if it's leather or chain or, well, we'll figure it out in a second. We just need to do this so these guys can dry. And then we will go to the poles. And that little bit of Polish basing will take a long time. I've got I got to do something else this morning at 9. So I don't think I'll be on here past 8. But I also think I'm probably going to be on later today. We'll see. I got a lot done yesterday. Mowed the lawn for the first time in months. I got slow growing grass. Oh, this is one of these cheekbone bastards. Oh well. Maybe we'll paint them so they're not accentuated. No, we still picked the right guys for the spearmen because I kind of went over that kind of methodically how I did it yesterday. Holy shit. See what the guys are losing a kidney to cancer, but eventually I'll be back to normal. Ouch. One reason I have an odd sleeping pattern. No, the most painful thing I've had is kidney stones. Wow. That reminds me, I need to drink some water. I've been sidelined from working for the last 2 years. I've had a series of issues. My intestinal issues and kidney stones, coupled with COVID, kept me out. I'm nearly at the point where I can get back to work, hopefully by this summer. Wow. Well, I'll tell you this. I haven't had anything severe like that, but there have been times. I know this is kind of hard to believe. But there's been times where I was actually looking forward to going back to work. There's actually days where I'm like, man, I can't wait to go to work so I don't have to deal with whatever it is that I'm dealing with at home. And it's not family stuff. It's just like moving or something. It's like, man, can't wait to go to work so I have less to do. It doesn't happen very often. And there's been times where we have had vacation. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get back to my routine, even if that routine involves going to work. Because sometimes you just have too much time off and you're not doing anything with it, and that's really a waste. I don't mind taking time off, but I want it to be worthwhile because I have a mess to clean up every time I come back from work, and I leave everything done. It's just I don't really have anybody that covers for me. They cover for me, but the folks have other things to do, so they get their hands full doing their own stuff. So what I do like is where the whole place shuts down. So the whole place is closed between this day and this day. Perfect, because I can just freaking leave. I don't have to. Nothing will happen while I'm gone, kind of thing. Oh, this guy's got shafted in the sword department. You got the bottom part of it isn't even molded. I'll have to give him a dagger instead. And there's no other pose for this guy. There was only 4, so we'll make it work. American War of Independence. I don't think there's a lot of people that do American War of Independence. I've actually played a few games of it. This one guy that used to run a DBN version of it, and he made a couple add-on rules there for AWI. And it was okay. It was pretty okay. It's not my period. I don't hate the period. It's not American Civil War, thank goodness. But at least there's different nationalities. Not like, well, you got 2 sides. I'm out. Tap out. So, AWI. I was going to say something related to that, and it's escaped me. I should have written it down quick. I've played it a couple times. Doesn't seem to be. I hear I've been going nuts the last 2 years being unable to work. I'm lucky my family are all supporting me. Should be back to work in 3 months. Wow. Damn it, you guys don't give me anything to complain about. Now, I think it's human nature to complain about stuff, even though it's not really anything worth complaining about. I complain about work, but I've been going to the same place for over 28 years, so. I like to say I don't dislike the work I do. I don't like the conditions I have to do it under. Mainly interruptions. And, sometimes I have to deal with people who, they really should be fired, and they don't get rid of them. So. Got a little bit of this over. Just a little bit. I wiped it down, obviously, or otherwise it'd be so much of this I wouldn't be able to do anything. Well, I went to go get a haircut yesterday, and on my way back, I'm like, let me go by the game store, which I never go to because it's basically a Warhammer store / comic book. They don't have shit, and the thing now is they now have the paint rack behind the counter, so I can't even look at the paints and everything. And I want to ask, hey, let me look at that color. Hey, let me look at that color. Let me look at and I don't need paints. So anyhow, I digress. So I did pick up a couple things that just for yucks, just because I'm a sadist. I picked up some more tufts in colors I didn't have. I don't know if I'm going to use them on this next one, but they were there, and I didn't want to go by and not buy anything. So we've got, what do we have here? These actually were probably pretty useful. This is what they call winter tuft. The name of it means oh so very little. Pretty much burnt grass. And then I also got Highland tuft, which isn't very Highlandy as far as I'm concerned. So between these two, the other 4 colors I have, and the other ones I got from Greg that he sent me from Australia, I've got tons of tufts. Tons. So we'll see. I like to mix these things up. So I'm not sure exactly what direction I'm going to go with the Byzantines yet. So I'm painting the spear. I might actually, we'll do a test on them and see if I like whatever basing I decided to use for them. But you used to do AWI reenacting. The AWI did have some colonials versus colonials in the Royalists and Rebels. I know what I was going to ask you. So, were you on yesterday when we were talking about, I was talking about the worst civilizations, the most evil civilizations or something like that. And the British Empire came up as one of them. Now, I think only 2 people were on at that time. So, when you play AWI, you think, oh, these British are the worst. Hey, I'd like to have that tax rate they had back then. Oh, and we did taxes yesterday. And for the first time in my life ever, we had to pay. I'm not surprised. It wasn't that big of a deal because I knew it was going to happen, just with the way everything changes. I just don't understand why it's the way it is. I mean, you shouldn't have to. There just shouldn't be any loopholes. Just this is how much you pay. No, it wasn't. But please continue on this worst civilizations. No, so I looked up. I watched Apocalypto. Movie that came out. Let's see, I was already married. So 2007, 2008. My whole family went to go see it except the wife. The daughter wasn't born yet. In the movie theater. And that's only happened one other time that I can think of. And that was about a decade before, a little bit more than a decade before, when we went to go see Indiana Jones and Last Crusade. I remember seeing that with the 4 of us. And anyway, so we watched the movie in the movie theater, and then I'm like, and I liked it. I remember liking it, and the first thing I remember about the movie was I remember it being very not difficult to tell the character. They did a good job of not being confused on who's who. As far as the characters, well, they got all kinds of. Do they have tattoos? I don't know if they have tattoos, but they have piercings and they have modifications to them done enough that you can tell all the characters apart. But it came on. I think Netflix or something like that. And I'm like, let me sit down and watch. And I watched it, which is unusual for me to watch a movie. And I was surprised by how little I remembered of it, which is always pleasant. And so it got me thinking, everything gets modified for Hollyweird and gets exaggerated and stuff like that. And I've read stuff about the Conquest, even though that movie was kind of an amalgamation of a couple of different things. I was reading something where it said they made them look Mayans, but it's really supposed to be the Aztecs. Well, the Mayans had human sacrifice too. Anyhow, so I started thinking, what are some of the worst civilizations ever? And I didn't want them to get, I wasn't looking at it for the standpoint like, okay, where's Nazi Germany filling? Obviously they're in the top 10 list. There's no doubt about that. But and of course it's just a matter of opinion because everybody has different opinions. But I was floored that in the top 10, on several people, not just some lunatic, but in the top 10, there was the British Empire was included, one of them. And I'm like, from my viewpoint, when the empires were a thing, and I'm talking 1600s to not even 1500s to early 20th century. If I have to be a member of a country of a place that's an empire, I'm thinking the British one isn't that bad a one. I'm not one to judge civilizations by modern day standards, or they would all fail. You know, they would all fail. Like in this DDA period, every one of these guys that runs any of these countries, they're all assholes. Every single one of them. But in the context of their day, as far as empires go, the British one's probably one of the better ones, if not probably the best one. I mean, there might be one that's better, you know, but so that's crazy. And it was like the top 10. Well, the British Empire may have been not nice people, etc., fill in the blank, but at the time, if the other empire would have gotten ahead of them, the other empire alternative, it would have been worse. I mean, it just would have been, you know, so top 10 worst. Really? Compared like Assyrians and shit like that? It's just absurd. It's just absolutely absurd. I reenacted British soldiers. I don't think they're evil. Ha. Me neither. I got pulls in 28mm that are all Essex, Good Armory 7th edition, as well as DBM. What period are they for? With the weather getting better, I like to go walking. My intestines allow me, that is. Wow. It's Battle of Tannenberg. I'd say top 5 civilizations are Soviets. I'm with you. Persians, Mongols, Nazi Germany, and Spain. Really? You're going to put my people up there in the top 5? I disagree. They weren't nice. I don't know about the top 5. I know Spain will get you. Oh, but their conquest of the New World is simply horrible to me, at least. Well, all you had to do is convert. At least you had a choice. Who gave you a choice? You want to be obstinate. At least you got a choice. Nazi Germany, you're not like, oh, well, you know, we're taking you away, you're Jewish. But wait a second, I voted, here's my voting card, and I voted for all the Nazi guys. Sorry, dude, you're still going on a trip. You know, you can't negotiate with that. Persians? I don't know that the Persians are, for the time, the Persians were pretty, now don't get me wrong, I'm glad the Greeks stopped them, okay? Wholeheartedly. Because I'm very pro-West. Sorry, and we don't do everything perfect in the West. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't put the Persians up there. My top 5. Well, you got to put Nazi Germany up there, and you got to put the Soviets on there because they're the flip side of the same damn thing, and they're current. They're so current, both of them, that to not put them on there would just be ridiculous. Okay, so you got to put them on there. Mongols, yeah, I hate the damn man. I hate the goddamn Mongols. I hate those guys. But again, you could kind of negotiate with them because if they come knocking on your door, you're like, what's this guy saying? You know, what are these strange people coming for? Well, we need to surrender. Well, I'm not going to freaking surrender. Well, if you didn't surrender, you were hosed. Okay, you better beat them back because they literally will. That's a death warrant. But if you end up being like a bunch of pacifist guys, you're like, yeah, we're not fighters. We'll join you. They'd leave you alone. I mean, they'd tax the shit out of you, but they wouldn't murder every single person. But yeah, I don't like the fucking Mongols. I don't like people that destroy shit just for. You go into a library, you destroy libraries. That's not cool. But my ancestors, yeah, we weren't nice. And people may not agree with me, but it's a good thing that they came here and did away with the people that were here and their human sacrifice crap. Because at least we had a choice. And yes, we enslaved people and took the gold away and didn't know how to manage money, and we ran our country into the ground. I get it. But You know, it would have just happened with the next European country that would have gotten here. They would have done the same thing. It was a sign of the times. You know, we just got done fighting people for 800 freaking years, and we hadn't had enough. But yes, my ancestors were not nice, but I'd take them over freaking human sacrifice shit any day. It's not even close. And anybody that involves any kind of human sacrifice is just, that's like the worst of the worst. Or like doing stuff to children. Or doing stuff to your own children. That's why I'm always saying I just can't take the side of the Carthaginians. I just can't. And I'm not saying the Romans were, all that, but man, you don't sacrifice your freaking children, man. That's freaking wrong. Who do you think you are, Stannis? That's why that guy was, I think that was the most disturbing guy in the whole thing. Sacrifice your own daughter. But that's just made up stories. You could keep making people evil and more eviler. Okay. I got out of miniatures for the last decade and have no army, so I started from scratch. Right now, just AWI in World War II, looking to get back to ancients last year. Ha! I had no choice. I was baptized Lutheran against my will. Well, the Lutherans are just Catholics with no pope, which, with the pope that's around now, is probably a better idea. Would not have lasted in Spain during that time. I pick on the Persians. They're on my list because the motto of their empire is bending the knee to one man. That doesn't work well for me. Yeah, I'm with you. Oh, no doubt. I put the Spanish on my list, but honestly, I do very much like the history of Spain. Spanish ladies are quite nice. Yeah. Well, I'm anti-corruption, so I wouldn't have done well in Spain. In most places, and particularly in Spain. But, we're a sign of our own times, so if you're born in a different thing, who know, in a different time period, who knows? I'm anti-corruption and I'm anti-slavery. I don't understand how that. I just don't understand how that works. It's okay not to like people, but slavery, man, it's just. I wouldn't be a good slave owner. I don't think so. And the other thing I don't understand about slavery, well, there's lots of things I don't understand about slavery, but a big one that seems obvious to me, if you don't think very much about these people who you enslave, but then you make them make food for you and trust them not to poison you. Like, I have trust issues. Like, you can't treat people like garbage and expect them to not get back at you. So just from the standpoint of surviving yourself, why would you do this to people? Amongst all the other wrong reasons there are not to do it. And then the name, if you're going to own people, which, automatically you don't think much of them, why would you give them your last name? I'm a little bit more medieval with that. I'm more of the, let's have a duel because you insulted my family name. That makes a lot more sense than, naming people you don't think much of and giving them your surname. That's something I'll never understand. Yeah, the Lutherans are the same damn thing. Same thing with the Church of England. It's the same thing, and I'm just saying that if I didn't like what the Inquisition did, I'd play along. I wouldn't be like, well, I got to stand up for that. I'm a survivor, dude. Just ask Agamemnon on how well it goes after you sacrifice a child. Poison is history's greatest equalizer. That book, one of the books that I read, that's actually a good book on Audible called The Poison King, about Mithridates and how he was into poisons and stuff like that. And it's been a while since I read the book, but let me kind of give you the gist. Along with all of his exploits and stuff like that, it's a pretty good book. But it talked about how he was really interested in poison, so he ingested a little bit of poison each day so that if he was ever poisoned, he'd build up an immunity to it. Well, the problem that happened is, at some point later in life, he wanted to off himself so he wouldn't get captured, and he couldn't use poison because it wouldn't kill him. So, oops. You know. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want people around that I wouldn't want to slight people and then have them around 24/7 and expect them not to take some kind of retribution on me. Safe thing to do is sink all the Spanish ships on the off chance one of them carries the Inquisition in its bowels. Yeah, it was a racket. Speaking of Inquisition, and I've only seen it once in the memories, and I don't have a big memory of it. There's a movie called that came out, God, it was probably 20 years ago now. The Ghosts of Goya, and it involves the painter, and I don't know exactly what it is. It had Natalie Portman in it. That's the only reason I watched it. I'm gonna just be upfront and honest with you. And it has one of the characters is played by this guy who I cannot stand this guy, and I guess in that case he was cast really well because his character was the dick of dicks, and Javier Bardem, I can't stand him. But if you're gonna cast somebody who's not well, then maybe he's the person to cast because he really fits that mold really well. But anyways, he plays a Inquisition priest, and he gets his. Let's put it that way. But he is not a nice character in that, and yeah, I don't like that dude at all. Goya's Ghosts is what it's called, not the Ghost of Goya. Goya's Ghosts. And it's another one of those movies where I think the main guy I've only seen it one time and it was a long time ago. I think the main guy is Goya. He's a Spanish guy, but he's played by somebody who's not Spanish, and it is fine, but they have a totally like English accent. And stuff like that annoys me. And not just because it's Spanish, but because it's French or something like that. They always have an English. Don't get me wrong, I like English accents, but they don't belong on somebody who's French or somebody who's Spanish. Like, make a little bit of effort. Get into character. It's part of your character. You know. Good morning, Tony. Just finished watching the Hannibal scenarios. Brilliant. So, I'm going to tell you a story on the Hannibal scenarios, but let me finish reading. Natalie Portman is a great reason to watch something. I agree. I agree. The Professional. I think that was the first thing she was in. That's a good movie. That's a good movie. But I like pretty much anything that what's his name touches. The French dude. I don't. What's his name? Oh man, Luc Besson. I like anything that. I like the stuff that he touches. Although he did Fifth Element and that sucked. But anyhow, not everything anybody can make is gold. But anyhow, the Hannibal scenarios. So there's another series of scenarios that we were going to run that night, and I ended up leaving them here, like always. It's I'm in a any day that we game, except at a convention. Any day that is after work, and I'm always rushed, and I'm like, well, I'm going to take these with me, so I won't have them, and then I didn't pack them. So I get all the way to Mitch's house, which it isn't that far, but I didn't want to turn around and get them. And I had this other set of scenarios, which was the first ones of the Hannibal set, and it looked like I didn't want to do them because there were battles everybody knew. Okay, I had another set of battles that nobody knew. So the ambush on the Alps I wanted to do. But then I didn't want to do Trebia because everybody knows about Trebia. And Trasimene, everybody knows about Trasimene. And, but it turned out really well. And the Kenai, I think, made a good battle. I don't think it's representing the same battle, like, looking-wise. I don't know if that's just pie in the sky that you're never going to be able to find. But they were fun. They were... and several of them, and I'd want to play them again. Not so that they'd go a different way, but they were interesting challenges. I like the fact that the winning conditions were not the standard winning conditions every time. And I love the games with a messed up setup, where your army is set up in a moronic manner from the get-go, and you need to fix that and win. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed them. We enjoyed them too. We've been enjoying the scenarios so much that I'm not in a hurry to go back to doing non-scenario stuff. The standard game, I've played it 2,000 times. I want some different parameters. And besides, if we have different parameters that aren't the standard game, I don't have to keep score. Well, I still keep score, but I don't log them. So we played all the scenarios more friendly. You know what I mean? Helping each other out. Like, look at this. Let's do this other thing. Just to see. It's almost from a standpoint of like helping people understand the game better. And I enjoyed that better, honestly. Instead of trying to win and, I don't want my Irish to lose a game or, there's plenty of time to do those type of games at conventions. And I've done enough of them. So the scenario stuff is definitely the ones that I like the messed up setups. I like the, man, how am I going to get out of this one kind of thing. So expect to see more of that, not less of it. So, and, if you really want to be competitive and play scenario games, just play it twice. Switch sides, But a lot of the scenarios just like Phil Barker's army list, there's just stuff that's just pulled out of somebody's ass. You just don't know. The information just doesn't exist that we want to know as war gamers or figure painters or whatever. They don't know how these guys were painted. They don't know what the setups were and where the elephants were in this battle, or, the stuff either didn't survive or So expect more of that. And the bad news is I really don't want to play those scenarios that are done with anybody other than Mitch, because they'll either take too long or, I mean, we want the ability level to be kind of equal. So, can I, where your legions require 2 pips, if not going straight, is just like irregulars in DBMM. Ah. Interesting. And again, when I'm playing scenarios and I'm not keeping score, I want to play the army as they would have been played. Because the right thing to do in the can I one is spend all my pips to expand my units out. I didn't do that, okay? I didn't do that because they didn't do that historically. So let's kind of play them kind of realistic and see how the game progresses. I mean, at least your first time through. So really enjoying the scenarios. So I'm glad people are too. They seem to be more popular than anything else. By the number of views. So hopefully people are enjoying them. And I like the scenarios that somebody else made, because if they suck, I can just say, oh, we're just playing them. It's somebody else's scenario. No responsibility. We're not responsible for this scenario. You know, and I've made a few. The problem is just the information just doesn't exist. You have to do educated guesses, and this is not what happened. This is what may have happened. They may have set up like this. So I mentioned yesterday, one of my, God, I don't want to use the word goals. It sounds so fake. One of the things that I would like to do in the next 5 years, there we go, is recreate this big battle that we did at Historicon in 2007. And that was one big board with a lot of barbarians and 3 Roman players trying to hold them back. And it was a freaking hoot. I want to do that because it's going to force me to paint some warband armies. And yes, I always bitch about warband, but you know what? They're fun. I just don't want to rely on them to try to win a game for me. You know, if I'm keeping track of win and loss records, I don't want to use any warband. But that doesn't mean that they're not fun for, you know, scenarios or something like that. And part of it is because I don't have any. And another part of it is because I get kind of a kick out of painting guys that look shitty. Okay? And that's whether if the miniatures aren't very good or if the way people were dressed wasn't very cool. My case in point is my Irish. My Irish guys look stupid. Most of the guys don't have helmets. They don't have shoes. They're wearing a freaking nightie. I know, not really, but it's basically is in one color, and it was an opportunity to make a boring-looking army look better than they did. Not play-wise, but just aesthetically pleasing. It's easy to paint Romans and make them look good. That's why I want to do the pre-feudal Scots. And that's not to downplay the Irish or to downplay the pre-feudal Scots. Hey, if you're in Irish descent, you didn't get to pick how those guys were dressed, or you would have dressed them better. Okay, but the armies that are kind of not exciting looking, okay? So when you do those barbarian things, when you do stuff like the Franks, I mean, the Franks were dressed like stupid. I mean, you know, they've got like top knots and striped shirts. I mean, like big time stripes, like freaking Ernie on Sesame Street, right? He had a stripe. I don't know. It's been a long time, but anyways, they look dumb as hell. But I enjoy making those less than stellar things and then just making them shine. You know, like these guys. These guys are boring. these Pole guys, they're wearing this almost like a Greek Orthodox type hat, and they're drab wear, but they're cool because I took guys that weren't very, these castings are great. It's nothing to do with the castings, but just they're less than exciting. Heraldry and stuff like that is easy to make look cool. So I get a kick out of doing that. So I'm looking forward to doing stuff like Alemanni and the Franks and making them look different from each other. I mean, they're both barbarians, but I don't want to just use generic barbarians. I don't know if that makes any sense. The Huns, how to make the Huns look freaking interesting. Well, for starters, I got lots of Huns from Gladiator, but I'm gonna buy some of those damn forged in battle guys, and I'll be doing the Huns before I do the Mongols for sure. But that's kind of what I've been enjoying painting is some of these. Yeah, as I'm getting ready to start on the Byzantines, and they're going to be all busy and shit. But I look forward to painting some of these less than popular, less than exciting looking armies and just the challenge of making them look really cool. So, I prefer to play historical settings, to be honest. I just like the larger structure. Just picking and pickup game gets boring. Yeah, it does. Well, the pickup game is good to motivate you to be able to paint with what you just finished. Rourke's Drift was one of the most fun I had in a scenario game. I had an alcoholic commander. You roll for traits before the encounter, and my commander kept wandering off to get booze. Awesome. That's awesome. So Hook was made an officer then. Zulu is still one of my favorite movies. I didn't know that I've seen Zulu. Wait. I saw the first one. I saw the one that's at Rourke's Drift. Is that Zulu? And what's the other one called? Zulu Dawn? How do you feel about painting an Egyptian army with chariots? You can make them quite colorful. I'd like to paint some Bronze Age armies at some point. I won't build one because everybody has that army, and it's a great army, and it's a period that everybody knows about. They look good. There's lots of manufacturers. It's a good army to begin with, and there's lots of paraphernalia for them, meaning a little monument that you can use as a camp. There's lots of Egyptian stuff, but everybody has that army. Scott has an army of them to paint. Mitch has, I think, 2. There's no reason for me to do that. I would rather do Hittites because Mitch has Hittites, but they look like shit and their spears are tiny. And they're supposed to be 3 pike. It's supposed to be fast pike. But I would even rather do an army that none of us have. But there's a lot of resources on the Egyptians. They look pretty cool. And you get to choose what color you get to make their skin, because the jury's still out on that, isn't it? Actually, if you do one of the dynasties, if you do the Kushite Egyptians, they're definitely darker skinned. Southern Egyptians, so to speak. But I'd rather just do an army that one of our group doesn't have. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with that army. It's a good army. Troop composition wise, that's kind of the army that I like. I like cavalry. Chariots are just another name for cavalry. I like having 4 bow in an army, and I like having 4 heavy infantry. It's really kind of ideal. That's Zulu. Okay, so I've seen Zulu. I'd like to do Trojan War armies. Yeah, unfortunately in DBA they're both basically like the same damn army. If you made a Trojan War army, then you could go into hordes of the things and make the other elements and add them for the Odyssey army. I was always fascinated by that story when I was a kid. I don't care much for stuff that you learn in stories that you hear in school. There's lots of interesting stories, but what gets put to you as a kid is like just garbage. But man, I dug that whole Odyssey stuff up, man. That's just that and the freaking blinded Cyclops and well, that's the only one I remember. I don't remember all the other stuff. He went to a bunch of different islands, but the Cyclops one where he's feeling around and they're hanging underneath the sheep. That's just classic stuff right there. The Minotaur. Always been a fan of Minotaurs. It's all fun and games until you're the Minotaur sacrifice. Yeah, all I did was just put the brown on it. It takes a long time to get around this stuff. Hey, you can't crash fast enough to win. Slow and steady wins the race. What was I reading? Oh, yeah. So I'm starting my second Byzantine book. And I keep remembering, it's like, man, Justinian was such a dick. I mean, he really was. I mean, there's other people that are worse because you know that they were, but some people like being spun like they're all right. Man, he was just, what an asshole to have as a boss, that guy. What a dick. Not a fan of his. So we're going to do some different ground coverage on the Byzantines. I think I'm going to make their ground coverage kind of arid. Can't be more arid than the desert folks, but on the arid side, that makes the figures pop. So we'll see. We'll test it out with a spear. I'd test it out with the Stannis alloy, but I haven't decided how I'm going to paint them yet. But regardless, I gotta finish this first. And all these guys are just reinforcements for my Moldavians, using them as allies to make them a viable force, like in an open or something like that. I'm not sure who I'm going to play, what armies I'm going to play in the convention coming up at the end of the month. Dun, 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 dun. Jason and the Argonauts. You know, I've never seen that, and I haven't avoided it. It just hasn't been on. I like all that claymation stuff, though. Maybe you should paint up some 15mm miniatures for that, base them on small washers, do a fantasy historical skirmish game. Nah, I got too much on my plate. I have too much on my plate. But yeah, that'd be cool. And get the Nika riots, yeah. I'm not even talking about the Nika riots. He's just a dick. You know, the way he treated Belisarius. He was just a... Wife Theodora, yeah, she was a bitch. Definitely. Finishing up my Almohad General at the moment. Cool. Those guys are neat. Sorry, they're the bad guys in my picture. Doesn't matter. I like painting bad guys. They're cool. Second army I painted. Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to hang out in Byzantine land a while. Because I've got these three armies to do that are kind of a morph of each other, and then I really should turn around and do Belisarius. Harvey, Mr. Gert, welcome. Welcome back. We saved your seat here for you. You know, it's one thing when you have characters through history that you know are just buttholes. There's no doubt about it. And then there's some that, you know, you don't know a whole lot about them and you just assume because of their accomplishments that they aren't. And then you read a book or you watch a program and you're like, man, I can't stand this guy. And that happened to me while I was watching the Rome miniseries. I couldn't stand the freaking kid who played Octavian. I couldn't stand him, you know. So I don't like Octavian. Sorry. Yeah, season 1. And then he's played by somebody else in season 2. I gotta watch those things again. There's a bit too much politics in there for my liking. I don't really care for things that are political. Maybe because I don't want to play a game that involves politics. I'm not a very politics person. I wouldn't have made it in politics. And it doesn't interest me. That's fine. There seems to be a plethora of people that are. So there's many people that will take my place. I'm not into politics, and every day I'm even less into it. Can we just hang them all and start over? And not start over. Best scenes in Rome where Octavian became consul and put Cicero in his place, and the one where the coldly tells Cleopatra with just his eyes, "You're dead." I don't remember that. That's obviously was season 2. I didn't like the guy that played Cicero either. Well, the whole point is Mark Antony has all the best lines, and I like that actor too. So he carried the entire series for me. You know, he carried the entire series for me. I don't like, unpopular opinion here. Unpopular opinion. I did not like the guy they cast as Julius Caesar. I just don't like that actor. I think he was a bit too stoic for my taste. Unpopular opinion. I know lots of people like him, but yeah, he does weird shit when his mouth when he talks. Kind of like what's his name? The guy that plays Batman, but worse. God, I'm really bad with people's names. Well, I don't think about them all day long. You know. Yeah, I gotta watch him again. I gotta watch him. I saw that series for the first time when I was painting my Roman armies for the first time of that period. It was like perfect timing. And the series had already been out for maybe a year and a half. So it was relatively new. Have I read any novels about Alfred Dugan? They're not on. They're not on Audible. I've looked them up. They're generally excellent. He wrote one about Belisarius. Oh, I have one by Belisarius, and it's, I don't like it. I didn't care for it. And I'm okay with the historical fiction where they make up shit. Like the Dracula book is kind of that way, and it was okay. What is the name of this book? And you'll know what it is because it's a famous book. Even I recognize the guy's name, and I'm not even into this kind of stuff. Let me go to. Give me a second here. I think I have Audible put on the computer here. Yep. I'm really bad about passwords. I don't remember them at all. So I'm like, I go to wherever it is that it's saved. And let's see. Let's go to, where's my library? I started listening to this one, and I may pick it back up again, but man, boring. Let's go to Belisarius. An Oblique Approach. What the hell is Robert Graves, Count Belisarius? That's the one I started reading. What is this? An Oblique Approach. Belisarius Saga Book 1. In northern India, the Malwal have created an empire of unexampled evil. Guided or possessed, I'm out. That's bullshit. That's total make-believe bullshit. Not interested in that. I'm not gonna be motivated to paint stuff for that. So yeah, I started reading that one by Robert Graves, and wasn't captivated by it. But he does seem like a freaking kick-ass guy. And Justinian is such a dick. A jealous dick. Yeah, I don't like Karen Hines. I don't like him. I'm, Batman. Have you ever seen Black Sails? No, I'm not into pirates. I'm not into pirates. I see your point. He's not really how I imagine Caesar. There you go. There you go. That's it. He's not how I imagine him either. Yeah, it was okay. It didn't ruin it for me. It's just not who I would have cast. It's just not who I would have cast. Casting, I'm huge on casting. I'm huge on casting. For instance, the only thing I've ever seen, and you guys are probably going to suggest other things, but and I've seen him in other things. The only thing that I've ever liked, here we go. I don't think about actors all day long. I can't think of them. The only thing I've seen, I guess if I'm going to get senile and start forgetting things, the names of actors is probably a really good thing to forget. Stay out of my history. Just keep forgetting the actors. Russell Crowe. The only thing Russell Crowe I've seen in it was worth a damn was freaking Gladiator. He was cast so freaking well for that. I'm like, I wanted him to just keep killing everybody's ass. I've seen him in other stuff. I couldn't care less about him. But Gladiator, I would like a really good series on Trajan. I think Trajan would be a really interesting series. He's my favorite emperor. Hey, it helps that he's Spanish. He's barbarian Spanish. That doesn't count. Who would I have cast to play Caesar? Wow. Well, I'd have to read about Caesar because I don't, and I haven't read Caesar's stuff because, like his Gallic War, it's from his viewpoint, and it's bullshit propaganda, and there's too much politics in Caesar. There's too much politics in Caesar. Who would I've cast? I don't know. I don't know. I am a fan of casting people you've never heard of. I am a huge fan of that because you don't have any preconceptions of who they are. You don't want to cast a historical movie and go like, oh, yeah, it's the one where the guy from Friends plays him. What? You don't want something like that that's just constantly in your face and they have this huge series of backlog or for those of you older people, it's the guy from Seinfeld's in. I got to give that show a shot, but I could never get into Seinfeld. It's too New Yorky for me, It's New York is another, for those of us that don't live in the city. It is a different planet. It's a different planet than the one we live in. So, I don't know who I would have cast. I'd have to know more about it. I wouldn't cast him. I just didn't. He wasn't likable enough. And I think that he was a very likable character from what I read about him. I mean, the people at the top may not have all liked him, but the people at the bottom, yeah, I'm huge on casting. You cast the wrong person, no bueno. And they really should cast people that nobody knows about. Because you know what? You got to pay those guys a lot less too. But they're just assuming that they're going to bring some kind of a money draw. But I like what they did with Rome. They invented other storylines to go with the storyline that we do know about to make it more rounded out. I think that's a good. I think that's a good. I think that's a good compromise with Hollyweird. You know that they want to invent shit. You know that they're going to want to invent characters that are, to fulfill whatever fantasy they have. And I'd rather them create other characters and make them into whatever mold they want, into instead of changing ones that we already know and tinker with reality. I think that's a good compromise formula. A series on Justinian would actually be quite entertaining. Yeah, they could call it The Dick. How about Richard Burton? I like Richard Burton, but Richard Burton's Richard Burton, and it's a little too late. He's had his last curtain call. Peter O'Toole. Really enjoyed Rome. You would have liked to see more through Augustus, Tiberius, etc. Really enjoyed Rome. Would have liked to see, yeah, really love to see a good movie or series on Trajan or Aurelian. Oops. Tempus Fugit. My pub lunch beckons. I'll see you all. Not interested in any movies where the actors who played Poe and Kylo Ren from the Star Wars rehash have been cast in. Adam Driver almost ruined The Last Duel. So I shouldn't watch that, huh? He has a face that's hard to look at. I'm just going to say it. He has, some people just don't look like what people look like. Kind of like these guys with these big cheekbones. I don't surround myself with people that look like that. It's just difficult to look at. But good historical Hollywood things just they don't mix. You're right. You're right. A lot of big name actors tend to play themselves in everything they do. I agree with you, Jeffrey. Absolutely. Best to have unknown actors whom there is no expectations. Absolutely. Hallelujah. So we can cast them in the role of zombie Caesar. Well, he wasn't beheaded, right? So he could come back as a zombie. Oh, man. I'd like to see a series on Sulla. I think Sulla's a really interesting character because he gave up, another dick, but he gave up the reins, and, he has I think Sulla would be really neat if they did it. They wouldn't. They would just freaking change it around. Or they do stupid shit like, what was that movie that they did with, I started watching. Started watching. I watched like a minute and a half, maybe 5. I don't know. Where they got is it called Titus? Where it's like a Shakespearean thing, but in the future, but it's supposed to be the emperor. Like, dude, put that whatever you're smoking, put that shit away, okay? There is real good history that people could be learning that is really freaking interesting. If you don't like the story how it is, just pick a different story. There's no reason to take a story and just invent garbage. Is it Titus? I don't know. I'm like, oh, it's about a Roman emperor. What? No. No, I'm not watching that crap. I'd rather watch The Eagle. Oh, dear God. I hated The Eagle. I liked Centurion. I mean, yeah, it's phony, but I think the casting in Centurion was good. Actually, I think the casting in Centurion was very good. God, the Eagle sucks. I can't stand old the guy at Saul Neck, whatever his name is. Again, I'm telling you, I'm going senile with the names of actors. Well, I'm glad they sacrificed themselves for that because I don't really need to do that. I don't watch a lot of movies. And so, speaking of movies, and I'm going to have to post this on my Facebook group for that and get people all wound up because there are some butthurt people on the freaking James Bond Facebook page. Just some real butthurt folks. You know, this guy sucks. This movie was terrible. The new one's bad. This, just to the extreme. It's nice seeing how people get them all wound up again. But about a month ago, I'm like, we should go through all of the movies as a family, not including my wife. My wife just wouldn't. She doesn't like watching. Though she's seen them all from being a kid, but anyhow, but with the daughter and my brother and my mom, go through them all and watch them in order. So about a month ago, maybe it was 2 months ago, because my mom just got back from going on a trip and she was gone for a while. We'd seen Doctor No, and I'd seen most movies. I think I've seen them all except like 4 of them. And 2 of the new ones I haven't seen. So I've seen almost all of them, nearly all of them. And so I warned my daughter. I said, Doctor No's pretty freaking boring. And it wasn't that bad. And she actually enjoyed it. So my mom just got back a couple days ago. It's like, hey, and my brother was in town. Like, let's go through and watch the next one. So and my daughter wasn't available, and she wasn't really interested. And so, all right, we'll watch it. We'll watch the From Russia one. I fell asleep 4 times, and we were all like of the opinion like that's one of the most boring movies they'd ever seen. And so I can't wait to post that on the group, and then and get everybody all wound up about, oh, that's the best movie ever, and there's some really opinion. If you go on our DBA, and DBA, the two DBA Facebook pages, people are extra friendly there. That's like the nicest Facebook group of anybody. And I'm not saying that needs to change. That's actually a good thing. But other places are just, people are just downright nasty to each other. There's not we're going to agree to disagree. They're like, no, we're going out to a duel, and it's just crazy stuff. So yeah, I fell asleep 4 times watching that movie last night. And I'd seen it before, but I'd only seen it once, and I don't remember anything about it. So I guess that's a good thing. They're like new movies to me. But anyhow, so we're working our way through those. We have quite a few of them to watch. So I just figured, might as well watch them in order. Not that you need to, but why not? Now I'm thinking Zombie Caesar. As a black gay woman, it would be, well, it could be a woman. It doesn't necessarily have to be a woman. It would be a Hollywood hit, yeah. Centurion was worth watching because Olga Kurylenko and Imogen Poots. Yeah, the Poots girl was cute in that. I prefer women with tongues. So, the Olga didn't do it. She was a bit barbarian for me. But yeah, the Poots girl was cute. Poor girl has a terrible name. Better watch out, Dirk, or Zombie Caesar will get you. Tried to watch the Avengers Endgame and damn near fell asleep most of it and wanted the 2.5 hours back. Welcome, Ian. Yeah, I don't like those superhero movies. I don't like the superhero movie. And the thing with the superhero movies is I actually can handle the superhero movies, but only give me 2. Don't give me 12, because they'll end up spending a lot of time on some superheroes that suck, I watch the superhero movies mostly because of my daughter. She was into the lore of it a little bit. I mean, she's not like a nerd burglar or anything, but And I never was into superheroes, so never was into comic books. Yeah, but the superhero things, have I liked some superhero movies? Absolutely. But they don't involve 12 superheroes. I don't like the Avengers stuff. The problem with superhero movies, the biggest problem is their villains suck. Oh, he's not really bad. He's just misunderstood. What happened to making people like freaking evil? Like, this guy wants to exterminate everybody and is like an asshole about it all the time. Not like, well, he has some redeeming qualities. Sorry, villains have no redeeming qualities. Hey, hey, I was raised in the freaking Cold War, okay? So, none of this. He's just misunderstood. He was bullied in school. Cut the crap and put an evil person on there. Oh, and by the way, make him look evil too. None of this half-ass shit. So most of them, they have this, oh, the movie's good, but what the hell kind of a villain is that? They don't make those things for, people like us, though. They make them for simpletons. Never understood the attraction of superhero movies. Yeah. Heath Ledger's Joker is probably the last superhero villain. Last great superhero villain. Did you watch the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix? It was interesting to watch once and never watch again. One of the X-Men movies was okay. And then they did this scene at the Cuban Missile Crisis, and these two fleets, like two lengths of a ship away from each other, blasting each other, and the ships on both sides looked the same. I'm out. Tap out. Come on, man. Who comes up with shit like that? And a lot of those movies have funny parts that have those parts are redeeming in whatever method, but as a whole, the movie's just garbage, But hey, they're just there to make money. Your family loves superhero movies, so when they put one on, that's my cue to get a couple hours of painting on it. I only like the Batman movies. I'm not a comic nerd, but I do like Batman. Yeah, Batman's pretty cool. Didn't. I thought it was good, but not quite Heath Ledger. Good morning. Hey, Marty. Give me a good war film or Western any day. Westerns are your favorite movies. I've only seen a handful of them. It's not really a venue that really appeals to me. My dad wasn't into them. So, we're all affected by what your fathers do. If you know who your father is. Definitely a huge impact, at least in my life, of what you do like or what you don't like. So, you mentioned something on there I needed to comment on. Oh, Batman. What movie was it that had a Batman scene? There was a movie, and it was with Ben Affleck where he played Batman. But there was a scene where it was a dream sequence where Batman had guns. Yeah, that was freaking awesome. Batman with guns, sign me up. That's perfect. It might have been like Batman versus Superman or something. But there was a scene where Batman had all his Batman gear up, plus he had, pistols too. That was awesome. Randy Collins, welcome. Welcome, welcome. I wasn't into westerns, but I liked Westworld, and I only mean season one because I only saw season one of Westworld. I tried season two, and I just couldn't get into it. But I liked it because it was thought provoking. It made you kind of think, which is most programming does not make you think. It's pretty mindless. Maybe that's why some people like watching television. That's the reason I don't like watching television. Is it's just kind of like, you know. Give out a plug for all our DBA events at Recon, will you please? No, I can't do that. Because the last time I did it, all the events were canceled. I can't do any more videos plugging our events. But we have a full slate of DBA stuff for the time being. I made multiple videos year before last on everything we were running in detail. And then the pandemic hit. And I'm not superstitious, but that was really freaking frustrating to go through all that effort. But we have a lot of... Okay, I'll go over them in a cursory manner. How about that? Actually, I've got to, when I come back, I need to make sure someone's awake. I think they are. And I will be right back with that because it's 7:30. All right. Let's get the screen back up and we'll go over the events here. Dun, 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 dun. Although Randy's here, Randy's coming to all the events, I think. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so it is the weekend after next. Right? Let me pull my calendar up here. Oh, it's not next weekend, it's the weekend after that one. So it's the weekend of the 22nd, 23rd, 24th in beautiful Kissimmee, Florida, or as I like to call it, Orlando. It's kind of in between both of them. People say, where the hell is Kissimmee, Florida? No, it's just a suburb of Orlando. We've got Recon 2022, and there's lots of other games other than DBA, but I won't be playing anything other than DBA. Got 3 sessions on Friday, 3 sessions on Saturday, and 1 session on Sunday. Sessions run from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., 2 p.m. to 6, and 8 p.m. to midnight. Or I should say about 11:50, because they kick you out of that place. So you never want to run a late running event in that last session. First thing Friday, Mitch will be running a how to play DBA thing. 2 p.m. session on Friday. We have, see, and I don't have that stuff in front of me. That's also a reason I want to get over it. I'm not going to look it up. I don't remember which one it is. I got it written down at my computer at work, but Fast and Furious, I believe, is Saturday afternoon. Fast and Furious is you got to use an army that has only fast elements that do not include any blades, so it doesn't turn into a blade fest. So you can use cavalry, a light horse, light camels. That's it. You can't use regular camels. You can't use heffalumps. You can't use knights. And all of your entire army cannot consist of any of those elements. Okay. Then you also have, in the foot department, you can have fast warband, fast bow, fast crossbow, fast longbow, fast auxilia, saloy, fast horde. What am I missing? Probably something. So your army can only consist of those units. And we play a tournament, 3 rounds. Friday evening is... See, I don't remember. I don't remember which one it is. Collision course is Saturday morning, then the chariot ones, then the open. So Asian Persuasion. Asian Persuasion is Friday evening, and that is from 8 to midnight, and you have to pick an army that is in the Asian list. In the back of DBA, there's actually regional separation dividers, but for all regional parameters for all the armies, and they have to be from Japan, China, Tibet, because for some reason Tibet's listed separately, and or Southeast Asia. So no Indian armies. Got to pick one of those. Play 3 rounds, tournament. Collision course. You guys seen our collision course rules? That's Saturday morning. We're going to be playing on 24-inch boards for sure. Collision course just takes way too long on a 30-inch board. And the thing about our convention that kind of stinks, I think it stinks, is that you're limited to these fixed times of starting and ending. So you can't let one event run a little longer if it is. You got to cut it off short, and you want to fit. You want to get your 3 games in. So collision course on 24-inch boards seems to move along a lot better. So we got collision course, and it's an open. You can use whatever army you want in collision course. There's no parameters to that. The Saturday afternoon is, what did I say it was? Chariots. Blazing chariots. So you have to have at least 2 chariot elements, and neither of those 2 can be side chariots. I mean, you can use side chariots, you just can't use them as one of your 2 chariot elements. Saturday evening, of course, is the open. You can use whatever the hell army you want. It can even be one you've already used in one of the other events. And Sunday morning, first ever, Marty's running his 25mm open. I hope you've got boards for that. Mats. Call them boards, even though we never use boards. And if you have a 25mm DVA army, I don't. But hopefully there'll be loaners, or I'll just watch or help things move along. Saturday morning, Marty's going to be running that. Some people, I think, expressed to him to play a 25mm DVA. We'll see if they show up, Marty. See if they put their money where their mouth is. One of my pet peeves, people that say, make up stories, then don't show up. There's a saying in Spanish. There's a saying in Spanish that makes somebody a spider captain. It's named Capitan Araña. And apparently the story is that's somebody who gets everybody all riled up. Like, for instance, you want to go on a cruise and you want to get all your friends to go on a cruise. So you set it up and it's going to be on April 18th or whatever, and we're all going to go, and you get different people. When the time comes down to get it around, everybody's there except the guy who really wanted to go. Well, that guy's a Capitan Araña. He got everybody riled up and then didn't put his money where his mouth is. So I like to think that's not one of my bad qualities. It's not being one of those people. I don't like to say I'm going to be somewhere and then I'm not. Okay, so back to the questions that I missed here. You prefer a war film about ordinary guys doing their best in a desperate situation than a load of crap about people with superpowers? Yep. Which Byzantine list am I building? Oh boy. So I'm building Komnenon Byzantine A and B, and then I'm going to build a couple of elements, like 4 or 5, to backdate it to Constantinian. And then I may just jump into the early ones as well. We're going to be hanging out in Byzantine land for a while. So that's the plan. And hopefully it won't change at any moment. But we're building the Komnenon Byzantine because we've got a lot of crusade stuff that we haven't done. So that's what we're going to do. And the only reason I'm finishing these Polish Knights is I said I was going to finish them. And this is to make the Moldavians more usable in an open. I don't know if I'm going to run these guys. I don't know if I'm going to run these guys in an open or not. But this is just part of my therapy to get some of these uglier, more rustic figures. I'm not talking about the Essex ones. I'm talking about the Falcon ones. Out there and give them some time in the sun, so to speak. Figures that nobody sees. You're going to head out, not feeling all that great. Get some sleep. All right, man. Be well. Favorite Western stuff? Maybe Once Upon a Time in the West. Looking for a recon. Yep. Won't be an Asian persuasion. I don't have an Asian army. We'll show up. We've got loners. I'd be in for 25 mil DBA, but it might be a bit far to travel. I don't know that it could be. If you traveled, you would be probably the person that would travel the farthest for one of our shows. Not probably, you would be. We've had a guy from Wales come. That was probably the record. I hear we've got somebody from New York State come. Not New York State, Washington State. So it needs to be a worldwide thing because, it's kind of a very niche thing. Not only are you playing a very restricted game where it's only this game system, but you also have, a restricted period, but also a restricted game thing. So if we got a low turnout, we'll have a good time. If we have a high turnout, we'll have a good time. Just show up and roll dice. I've played 1 or 2 games of DBA in 25 mil. It's the same, but different. None of it really affects the, I didn't see that happening because they moved farther kind of thing. No. Yeah, I used to love my Asian armies. I haven't been doing really well with them, probably because I'm talking shit about them. Well, they shouldn't be so nefarious. The Chinese shouldn't be so nefarious. I wouldn't have to say things about them. But I love Asian armies. They're cool. They're really, really neat. Worst thing about Asian armies, without a doubt, is their flags suck. If you're a flag guy, and I am, they just, you'd think they'd have dragons and cool things, and nope. A lot of these things just have a flag that's the character of the dynasty. And that's it. You're on your own for the rest of the stuff. And that stinks because they got a lot of, you could have all kinds of cool dragon glyphs and, nope. You got to invent all that yourself. You got to go to Fantasy Island for that. So that's kind of a shame. And kind of eye-opening when you start looking into it. But that's really my only gripe. They're pretty much all of them are really well-balanced forces that have some good combined arms. I have 4 or 5 25mm armies. Don said he was bringing 4 loners. Likely have more armies than players. It is likely. Terrain and measuring devices will be the issue. Well, we can cut some out of cardboard. 13 hours flight to LA. Don't know flight times from Florida. About 6? 5? I've only been to the West Coast one time. Here's an interesting question. If when I had discovered DBA, if everybody played in 25s here, would I have gotten into it? I don't know the answer to that question. I probably wouldn't have, because they just take too long to paint. They just take me too long to paint. There's no way I could paint a 25mm figure in the time that I paint one of these. Even though I probably spend more time painting one of these than most people spend on 25s. There's extra stuff to add to them, and I wouldn't be able to just say, we just won't paint that. So, it used to be, and I've said this many times, it used to be I didn't like 25mm figures at all. There weren't enough variety of manufacturers. I didn't like how they looked. That's not the case now. All kinds of people make them, and many of them look really, really cool. And they're more expensive. I don't care about that. As long as if you're painting what you buy, the expense doesn't really matter. It's if you collect a horde of things and don't do anything with it when it gets, stupid expensive. Which we've all done. You have plenty of 25mm terrain. It's a bit far. Now, we just have to use a bunch of felt. Okay, so we got the base color on the Polish Knights. It took forever. It does. It takes a long time. The basing actually on 25s might actually be faster to paint. There's more space in between the horses. But that's it. That'd probably be the only thing. The only process that would take, that would be quicker. Okay, this is the guys I just finished. The order I finished these in is important, because I'm going to go ahead and start doing the next step with these that are drier. All right, we no longer need a wet palette for this. Actually, for dry brushing, a wet palette is very discouraged. Now, you can make it work. I just don't choose to use one for that. And let's get our culprits out here. We already have the chocolate brown. Nope, not English uniform. That's the other coloring. U.S. field drab and Iraqi sand. Iraqi sand is either this one. That's the one. Could barely make it out. I need to rewrite that on here. 7 viewers, good morning. Happy Sunday. I think everybody's on Sunday. Sometimes I get on here and people are already the next day ahead. They're in the future. All right. One of my staple colors. All right, let's get U.S. field drab out. And a pen and a brush. I know like you so much. That one's a bit too much. That one's a bit too big. I think this one will do. "10 minutes till Monday." Oh, sucks to be you. But then again, you were screwing around while I was at work on Friday. You were screwing around. You're still working from home, aren't you? That's not so bad. I'd like to work from home one day in my life. Just one. Can I just work from home one day and wear whatever the F I want to? Dirk's in New Zealand. Yeah, he's big in the DBMM scene out there. So he does a bigger scale and a more figures. Double whammy. And here's a question. Would I prefer to do 25 millimeter DBA or 15 millimeter DBMM? That'd be hard. Assuming I knew how to play DBMM, I'd say probably, I don't know what I'd do. I like painting 15s, but man, I don't want to paint that many before I move to another army. I think I'd probably do 25 millimeter DBA, be honest with you. I like the less amount of figures. And then I would base these guys on a Sabo base so I could use them separately, like if I was going to play Lion Rampant. I was going to call it Rampant Lion. Nope. Lion Rampant. Lion Rampant's actually okay. It's kind of a neat system. I don't like how restrictive it is to how big your unit guys are. Like I think your infantry can only be like 6 figures. They can't be 7. They can't be 8. I think it's 6, or maybe there are 8 of them. Whatever. It's too restrictive in that. But if you're just gonna do scenarios and stuff, I think the system works pretty cool. There's a lot of push your luck thing in it, so that's pretty neat. Working from home. Well, every day's a work day. No, every day's a day off. Could wear whatever you want. And I don't mean it from the standpoint that you're going to be running around naked, but you could wear this. You could be comfortable. The first thing I do when I leave work, I want to take my work clothes off. I don't want to be in them anymore. And I told my wife, I don't mind getting something from the grocery store after work. I just don't want to do it in my work get-up. Just outside and dusty, and I don't look my best. So first thing I want to do is I want to get out of my work clothes. 10 minutes to Monday. That's great. We start bombing in 10 minutes. If you guys haven't checked out the Punic Wars, the Hannibal on the March that dropped yesterday, check that out. Some interesting scenarios made by Connor, and we played through them on late Friday. Actually made a playable Cannae. A battle of Cannae that was playable. I don't know if it was realistic representation of what could have been, but it's still a fun game. It was a good scenario. Nothing's going to be perfect. So the nice thing about, I've mentioned this before, the nice thing about not having a convention is I don't have this desire. I don't have this desire I have to suppress that says, no, don't stop working on what you are and go off and build a new army just for the convention that you're not going to get done in time, and then you'll have another half-assed army complete. You know, when there's no conventions to do, it's easier to start a project and finish it instead of getting sidetracked and these little side projects and, hey, I think I'll add a couple of elements for this and I'll run this one at the event. It's, you know, it's a pain. It's a pain to have to resist that. And I've always struggled with that. But without conventions, you're like, well, I'm just going to do the next thing, and I'm not going to do anything else until I finish what I started with. So that's the new approach. If I want to run a new army at a show that I don't have the figures for, I'll just fudge the figures. You know, here's these Japanese, but they don't look like it. You know, I'd rather do that than sidetrack and sabotage my own painting finishing by going off and, hey, let me build 2 stands of these guys. So I've come close to wanting to do that, but I can't keep myself on a short leash. Because it's not like, well, I just build these poles because this is the only army I'm interested in. Oh, no. No. They're not army lists. It's a checklist. Like, I like those guys, and those guys are cool too, and those guys are neat, and, you know. It never ends. There's only about a dozen figures, about a dozen armies. I just, flat out, I'll never build them. Just because they don't even interest me, or for the most part, they don't make figures for them. And, or the troop composition is not very exciting. Like, for instance, if you take an army like, say, the Toltec, okay? I don't remember what book Toltec are in. I think they're book 3 army. Anyways, the predecessors of the Aztecs. Nobody makes figures for them. And they're all blade. They're all solid blade, the entire army, I think. Or they used to be. I'm like, why would I build them? You know, I'm going to just be fudging figures, fudging everything about them, and then when I get down to them, they're a boring army to play because they're all blade. You know, so not interested in building them. So it's all things to consider. You crash into finish an army for a collision course. Well, I'm not going to ask you what it is. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Hopefully it'll be something cool. It's nice to have painters. There's not too many of us. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm going to use these guys to the show. I don't know. I'm not worried about it. You know, I'm just painting them just because I like painting. It's a lot cheaper to paint than go see a shrink. I imagine. I've never gone to see one. Maybe that's my problem. I haven't gone to see a shrink. Nico Fig, welcome. Welcome from France. Excellent. Dirk wants to know. It's past your bedtime, pal. Dirk wants to know what army. What army have you guys built that you've regretted building? There's a good question. What army did you build and you're like, man, I wish I would have never built these guys? I wish I hadn't wasted my time building them. I don't even say that with the Turks, and the Turks have a terrible win record. I like my Turks. Hey, there's a lot worse things than having the Turks not take over the world, you know? And I try to get my guys to win games, even regardless of how nefarious those people were in real life. Got nothing to do with it. I disconnect the two, you know? Pre-Vedic Indian. Well, that's a cool army. Wow, heroic Indian. I can just hear it now. Here we come to kick your ass. I would like to partake in a conflict. I gotta build another Indian army soon. I gotta build an Indian army with multiple elephants. Not because I think they're a war-winning solution. I just think that they're cute. I don't like things that are high pip drain, so I don't think I would like them, but they're on my list. Maybe we can get through this next one. We're not gonna make it to the next color. We'll see if we can make it through this one. The last color is the easiest one though. 3.0 really screwed up my favorite later Carthage list. Didn't Carthage get better though? I have a question. Could you tell us a set of paints for travelers painters, the basic paints to buy? I can't, because I think that the most important thing is their lighting. Like if I travel with my stuff here, I like Vallejo, but brushes are more important than paints, and they don't have to be expensive brushes. They can be, you know, whatever you can get a hand on. But lighting is huge. Of all the things that I have here, the things that I value the most for having a successful painting session is table height. And you're not going to be able to travel with that. Everything's going to be too low. You're going to be like, hunched over, and you're going to be uncomfortable and that. But table height and lighting, and I wouldn't do well with the traveling. I mean, you may have a job where you travel all the time, multiple months of the year, and yeah, you're going to have to travel with it. But I think lighting is the biggest thing. I use an OT light, and I guess they make smaller ones you can travel with. But if I didn't have this, and sometimes this lighting is too powerful for what you guys are seeing. You'll see things that are washed out in lighting. And I've tried to tone some of it down on some of the videos, but it's still too bright. So lighting is huge. The height that, I have to hunch over a little bit, but if I could get this chair, it was even lower. If it was like this, it would be even better. Like drop it like another 2 inches. I guess I could raise the table, but then I have to put the thing. Yeah, it's not necessary. But the height on painting is big for me. I've had a regular desk where I've had to hunch over, and you just get tired, and I don't get tired of doing it. Usually I have to get up just because my butt falls asleep. But other than that, this is easy on the eyes. This is easy on the back. But yeah, lighting's big. But paints, I don't know. It depends. It depends how long you're traveling for. If you're traveling and let's say I'm traveling for a month, and I know that all I'm going to be able to get done is like the Byzantine, like 2 units of Byzantine spear. I just bring the colors for the Byzantine spear and call it that. I have not painted traveling, although I have painted without electricity. There was a storm that came in. I was working on my Nan Chow at the time, so say 4 years ago or something like that, and knocked out our power, and I needed to knock them out. And I have a set of these like these little flashlights that go on your, but they're LED, so they're really bright. And I finished painting my Nan Chow while we had no power. So, solid warband, solid auxilia. You don't like those solid troops, huh? Be nice if I have a video about that. About the height of my things. Yeah, we're going to do something when I get 1,500 subscribers, which is just around the corner. I didn't do anything for 1,000 because 1,000 was problematic, because when I hit 1,000 subscribers, it was the first time I could video live. So I was busy doing the video live things before I, did a walk around. But we'll do something for 1,500. Maybe we'll show you the stuff that I use to have a successful painting session. That it's tried and true. I've used this stuff for many, many years, and it works for me. Lighting is huge. Huge. Brushes are more important than paint. And, you don't want to use watercolors, but I could use craft paint and be successful. I prefer not to. It doesn't cover as well, but there's nothing wrong with using craft paint for some things. And some craft paint colors are better than others, but brushes are more important than craft paint. Carthage. So the thing about Carthage that's messed up, there's a couple things about Carthage that's messed up. First of all, the auxilia really should be fast blades. Those guys should be better represented as fast blades. I'd leave the warbands or whatever the hell they are. But the auxilia, the Spanish swordmen should be fast blades. And there should be a Hannibal list after Cannae where would show them with all the captured equipment and with a low aggression, where he's just traipsing around Italy for, between Cannae and Zama. So what is that, 14 years? Yeah, you would think with all the army lists that they added, they didn't add a Hannibal in Italy list. So, a rock that fell off. Probably because this was one of those that my material was drying and I had to put a skim coat to get these rocks to glue down. I didn't want to white glue them down. They just create too much goop and mess up the the pattern that I have here on this stuff. Used to travel for work a lot, and yes, lighting is the big problem. Most hotels can provide better desk lighting, but it's never perfect. Some of the desk lighting's okay, you know, and you need a table that doesn't shake. It's huge, huge. I could never paint it like on a TV tray or something like that, but I also brace myself a lot. I don't paint in midair like some people do. I never have. I find it unnerving. I don't have necessarily a bad pulse, but I feel like I do when I start painting in midair. And you'll see these painters, and they're good painters. I can't paint in midair. All right. Yeah, we got to cut this off. I got to get ready for the next thing I'm going to do. But we'll be back on today, though. I appreciate you guys stopping by and saying hi, and we'll see you guys shortly. Maybe around later today, or in some people's case, tomorrow. But have a good one. Enjoy your Sunday, if there's any of it left to enjoy. And we will see you soon.